Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Angler Journey podcast. I am here with another boots on the ground entrepreneur. Today we are going to be learning about natural health and the owner and founder, Miss Patti Knobbe of the Good Earth Company. So I'm so excited to dive in and learn about this. Welcome, Patti.
Thank you, Hailey, and thank you for asking me to come along.
Okay, so first things first, you're a brand new grandma.
I am.
Congratulations. Tell us about him.
Well, he's a little boy. Our family of all girls basically finally have a little boy, Mr. Matt Gideon, and he is doing well, and mom's doing well, and people can tell you all day long how wonderful being a grandparent is, but until you experience it, you have no idea truly how wonderful it is.
Right. That's amazing. Amazing. Okay, so walk us through, we're going to go dive back. Walk us through, where are you from? How did you end up in West Point, Nebraska? Tell us about some of those major life experiences you had.
So the funny thing is I'm originally from West Point, Mississippi. And God's got a real funny sense of humor. So my husband, Scott, was working down there one summer and was going to be there just for about 6 weeks and ended up liking it and going to school at Mississippi State for that next semester and stayed longer, and we met in that time and ended up dating, getting married, and then having our first daughter, Drew, down there. And then he had one more year of school left here at UNL, and so we moved back in 95 for him to finish out his last year here at UNL, and then after that moved back to West Point, where he is from, and has been working at Harry Kimby Feed Yards now for almost 29 years.
Wow. So did you know you were an entrepreneur before you even started the Good Earth Company?
No, I honestly probably never even thought of it. I think my goal in life was always to be, a wife, a mother, and be nurturing to everybody. And I knew I'd be working and things like that. But it probably wasn't until, Maddie's junior year in high school, our youngest daughter, I started thinking about, okay, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? I've been that mother, I've been that wife, and now it's time for me to decide what I want to do. And I knew it was going to include a life of educating people, helping people live their best life, if possible. And I just didn't know what it looked like at the time.
Right.
So.
Right. No, that's awesome, because I think a lot of people, they think this idea of entrepreneurship, and especially some of our students, they're really discovering, oh my gosh, like I have to start a business now, but you can start a business
whenever,
at any point in your life, and you are living proof of that. So
I know I've told a few people here recently, I said, because they're struggling with what their next step was going to be, either with a job or education. And my whole thing is if you pray about it, God will bring it to you. And at 42 years old, I feel like my many prayers had been answered, and maybe it wasn't in my timing but his timing, but it was the perfect timing, not only for me, I feel like for my family, because everyone was out of the house. But I just feel like for our town and our area, Northeast Nebraska, it was perfect timing to bring in the services and modalities and the frame of mind we have at the Good Earth Company. It was the perfect time for that as well.
Right. Well, I'm really excited to talk about the services, but before we do that, you're a wife, you're a mother, and now you're a grandma. Yeah. Let's go back. What led you to find a love for natural health?
I think I was born with that. I think I've always had the natural instinct. When I say natural, if God created it, He put it on this earth, why aren't we using it? We should be, He gave us the food, He gave us animals, people, for relationships. I've always had that in me. My ethnicity is, I'm an 8th Choctaw Indian from like the Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana area. I probably look a little bit more Mediterranean than I do on Choctaw Indian, but that's where Maddie gets it from. I always say she looks more than I do. But anyway, I think that being in my background, I've always wanted to learn more about herbs. plants, things like that. So I think it was just something that was already planted in me from birth, and I just started listening to that voice and what I wanted to do late as I got a little bit older. So I think I've always had it.
Yeah. Do you feel like entrepreneurs, that it's more simple? It's more of a simple idea when starting a business than they think, that it's already something they were naturally born with?
Yes. At first you think, oh, yeah, this is going to not be so hard. I can do this. And then if you haven't been through some of the programs like you guys have here at the Engler, building the program, you study and you talk about that. You learn about the process of being an entrepreneur and starting a business and the things, the correct steps you need to take before you actually open your doors. I had none of that. Now, did I have some great role models? Yes, like my father-in-law, Hailey DeMers, the businesses that he started, and my husband now, runs those, and the people that work with them. I had some great examples, but until you put the boots on the ground, like you said, and you do it yourself, you have no idea how much work and how much energy could be drained from you if you allowed it. So getting the proper steps in order is very important, and it will save you a lot of money in the long run.
Right. No, that's great. So walk us through how the Good Earth Company was founded.
Okay. So I remember traveling, again, it was Maddie's junior to senior year. She was in volleyball league at Elite, and we were traveling to some other places, and I remember being in the hotel room one day, and I'm just like, okay, you're not going to work at the feedlot the rest of your life. What do you want to do? And so then I started thinking about what are some things that I could do for the rest of my life that would grow me mentally, physically, and spiritually, strengthen me mentally, physically, and spiritually, but also bring others along for the ride to do the same. And so I started thinking about, okay, spiritually, it's just important for me that God comes first. I've always told my family, God first, then you. So I wanted to be able to open a business that when people walked in the door, they felt light. They felt the light. They felt God there, and that was a place where they could be heard, and understood and loved. So that was how it kind of, what I based it on, what I wanted it to be like. So then I started thinking about, well, what is this going to be? And I'm like, okay, well, I know how important for my body, yoga stretches. I am very much so excited to say that I started a Christ-centered yoga practice because I don't want to cross the line in my faith about beliefs and things like that. So I started a Christ-centered yoga practice first. The funny story about that is I didn't have a building. I just started in the park there in West Point on June 5th of 2017. And just wanted to see what, if there was interest. And there was. I had quite a few people show up each week. And so then I decided it was time to, let's rent a building. And what am I going to call this business? So I remember talking to my sister Christy, and I said, well, I got to come up with a name. And she goes, well, we'll pray on this. So we did. We prayed on it that week. And actually, it was the day after she had said, let's pray on it. I was doing one of my daily Bible devotions, and Genesis 1:31 was the focus, and it was, God looked all around, and it was all good, and what He had created. And I'm like, you know what? Good. And I'm like, a good earth. And so then I decided to call it the Good Earth Company, because usually everybody always puts the in front of it anyway. So the Good Earth Company. And then I decided I wanted to not only offer the Christ-centered yoga practice, I wanted to start bringing in health foods. Well, I should not say foods, but products, supplements. And educating people on, deficiencies in the body, what these supplements are for. So I started a little health and wellness store up front, and then I was going back to school because I was getting a lot of health questions. And I'm like, I might need to know a little bit more about this area, and this area. So I decided to go back to school. Knew I couldn't go back to school to be a medical naturopathic doctor, so you can go the med side and be a naturopathic doctor. I chose, because of already having a family and already having other businesses, and we ranch as well, it was going to have to be all online until I had to go test. And so I found a wonderful school, which is Trinity School of Natural Health, and it was important to me to go to school, to enroll there because of the faith-based. And then they're also accredited with a number of health and wellness organizations that you can become board certified. So in the 4.5, almost 5 years, I took numerous programs, certifications, and then studied to become a board certified naturopathic doctor, and did that in 2000, I think it was 20. And so I've been practicing as an ND now for 3 years.
That's amazing.
So we have services, lots of services. But anyway, let's go back to the yoga. The very beginning, that's what it was founded on.
I want you to tell this story. This is
so, we're taught, through scripture not to worry, Yeah. Birds don't worry about what they're wearing or what they're going to wear or what they're going to eat. They just get up and they just trust that God's going to provide.
Preach.
Yeah. So, I totally believe in that, but I was so worked up about having the perfect first yoga class. I mean, everything had to be in place. The music had to be perfect. The breath had to, perfectly work with that twist that's going to work with that line in the song. And and I got the studio all set up. I was renting, and I ran downstairs to my car to grab something, and I went back, and the door was locked. My keys were inside.
No.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay, God, I hear it. I totally took the focus off you. And so our first yoga class was in the parking lot with my 2 cotton rugs that I keep in my car in the front seat on the floor to keep the mats clean. I put 2 of those together, and that was my yoga mat for my very first class. And the gals that started with that class first, it was a 5:30 a.m. morning class. There was about 4 or 5 of them that showed up. We actually just laughed about that on New Year's Eve because we were all together. And I was like, yeah, that was God's way of saying, yeah, you took the focus off me. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. This just proves entrepreneurship is not glamorous.
It's not glamorous, and some days it's not pretty, but very much so rewarding in so many ways.
Right.
So yoga was probably first service we started with. Then we went into ionic foot detoxification, which it's a whole body detoxification, but we just do it through the feet. You can put your hands in the basin, but it's a whole body detox. It's a great way to pull heavy metal toxins out. Inflammation, it helps with people who have aches and pains, things like that. Digestive issues, so gastrointestinal issues. And there's some people that just come back because they say they sleep better and they just feel better. So that was the second service we brought in. Then it was the infrared sauna, which there's so many health benefits with that. Then I decided that from there I wanted to start the naturopathic doctor side. So then I started offering testing, Bream's biological theory of ionization, which is pH testing of the body and of the saliva, to see where we're at, because our digestive system works optimally at a certain level, like 6.4 and 6.4, according to Reams. And I see it, when we can get people that are not too alkaline, not too acidic, we can bring them in, they're less anxious, maybe less moody, digestive system works better, everything just tends to run a little bit better in their life. So we brought that in, brought iridology in. I'm an iridologist. That's a study of the iris, not so much, people are like, oh, so you're like an eye doctor. Not at all. I take pictures of your iris, and our body is mapped out in our irises. So like the thyroid reaction fields are on the inside of the iris, our lungs and bronchioles are on the outside. We have the brain activity up at the top of the iris, and then towards the bottom ends, we have like our adrenals, our kidney, to the sides, our liver, spleen. So in those areas, if we have fibers that are spread and there's a darker area in those areas, that's a really good indication to me that those organs, systems, or glands need to be supported. So we brought that in, and people they're amazed at what I can tell. Like even their character, you can tell that a person is more of a neurogenic or a polyglandular. Neurogenic people are going to be your type A people who go, take care of everybody but don't take care of themselves. Polyglandular people tend to be your people that are a little bit more laid back, creative, tend to have issues with blood sugar imbalances. So that's just amazing that we can just look in an eye and say there's a very good chance that we need to support these areas. Also do biofeedback, so bioenergetic feedback of the body. Just what is your body telling you? Because we don't always listen.
Yeah.
So now we also do thermography. That is thermal imaging of the body. Our camera is it's a medical grade, or I should say a medical approved thermal imaging camera. And I just take the picture, so I'm a thermographer. We send those images in to a thermologist who is a medical doctor that specializes in thermography. And we usually get the reports back in 1 to 2 days. And it's amazing what a person can find out also what's going on internally. It doesn't look at the brain or the prostate for a man, a brain for a woman or a man, but it looks at everything else as far as how it's functioning, how things are functioning in the body. Let's see here. Then we also brought in salt therapy for respiratory therapy. It's a medical, pharmaceutical grade Himalayan salt that gets blown into this booth, which we were talking about earlier. We're getting ready to expand on that because we are finding that people who have struggled in our area, and when I say it's our company, the Good Earth Company, we're getting people from out of town, out of state now, just by word of mouth. I mean, we really, other than Facebook or Instagram, we don't market. We don't pay to, I guess I should say, market, because word of mouth has been wonderful, has been huge for us. But respiratory therapy, people came because they heard it was great for, issues of like they have already been diagnosed by a medical doctor, like emphysema, COPD, respiratory issues, some of the side effects that people have now from COVID. They feel like they breathe better than they have in a long time. But we have more people coming back now to use it for their skin, their hair and their skin, because their scalp isn't as flaky, their skin is not as flaky and itchy and irritated.
I can attest to that.
Yeah, because you use it as well.
I mean, as a singer, I remember I went in right before New Year's, and everyone around me is blowing their nose and hacking, and I'm like, I can't get sick right now. And my mom was coming in, and I thought this would be perfect for me to keep my keep my health in check.
Yeah.
So,
and the great thing about that, the ionic foot detoxification, I can't, 5 years is the limit, unless there is a certain situation with a younger child and a doctor has signed off, on a form. So 5 years and up can only do the foot detox, 12, 14 years and older for the sauna. But for the salt respiratory therapy, it can be, as long as, it can be a young, very young child. Yeah. I'm not saying a newborn, but, get a few months on the baby, and if they're having breathing issues, nasal any kind of respiratory issues. So we've brought that in, but we're going to expand on that because of how well it's been going. Right now we just have the one booth. I'm having a room created, so 5 to 6 people, because we have we're not a spa, but we have a lot of ladies and gentlemen that will come, and it's like 4 or 5 or 6 of them at a time. So we're having to
The day before my wedding, I remember I brought in my parents and my father and mother-in-law,
and it's so much fun. I mean, it is. The goal is while you're there, you get so much information. There's so much education you leave with when you come to the Good Earth Company. You may have came to just sit, relax, and detox, or, again, respiratory therapy. But you left with so much information and so much more knowledge on natural health and how you can be more preventative and restorative with your health than you ever thought you would leave with. I have a couple of my gals that tell me all the time, they're like, you do realize what you technically should be making money on. You're giving it away. You know what? God is seeing that the Good Earth Company is doing well and being prosperous. So I feel like I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Okay, so how many years, or when did you start the Good Earth Company? Because I know it's grown way faster than you thought it would. So when did you start it?
Okay, so technically as an LLC, so I started June 5th, 2017 on the yoga side. Then I turned it into an LLC closer to 2019. But I've been in that building and I've been offering some of the services since 2017. And I would say when we really exploded was COVID. I honestly, for a brief moment, thought to myself, I'm going to have to close my doors because of, us not socializing, getting out, the fear everyone had. But then there was that side where people couldn't get to their medical doctor. People couldn't get to, the clinic. People couldn't get out. People were scared to. Then they started hearing and learning about how you really need to keep your immune system boosted. So people started coming to our place and finding out, well, what can I do to boost my immune system? What are some of the products that you have here? So again, we had people that would come in just to be educated. And so we boosted up, the products that we had on the shelf. We made sure we had, it's as much information for people as we possibly could. We, again, educated people on the services that we offered that could help to detox and boost the immune system. When it comes to the supplement side, I am a minimalist. I do not believe our liver is designed to supplement as much as people do. We could do way more damage to our liver and our body than good if we're over supplementing. So it's finding out, that's where the biofeedback comes in. Finding out what are we deficient in? What are we maybe taking too much of? Because it can tell us that. So I'm honest with people and real with them when it comes to, I may have all this on my shelves, doesn't mean I want you to be taking this or I want to sell all this to you. I'm big on a liposomal, liquid vitamin. I'm big on anything liquid, liposomal, or methyl, because our body absorbs it better. It's more bioavailable to the body, because if your pH is off, if you're too alkaline, too acidic, there's a great chance that everything that you're taking in mineral and vitamin-wise is not making it to the duodenum, where that's where the absorption happens. So I'm big on finding out, number one, where is your pH? We got to correct that first before I can suggest you take this. Now, there's many people that will not take liquid. They don't like the taste, and so it has to be capsule or gummy. That's fine. Just know that your pH needs to be a little bit probably better if we know where it's at. I'm not saying I know where your pH is at without testing you. You just really need to know where you're at to know what you need to be taking at the time. So, the supplement side has grown just because, as I become more knowledgeable on things and know the relationship with iron and magnesium, or know that, if someone has a hard time converting their vitamins or their B complex vitamins, we need to have more methyl options. But I definitely would love to see more people take liquid forms of supplements and things like that. But
I got my greens today. I don't know if it's the right greens for me, but
well, we can talk about it another time. I'm sure it's fine though.
I
but
know it.
Greens. Yeah. So, okay, you go on to your next question.
No, please, go into the greens. I would love to hear it.
So, the thing with products and the thing like with greens, I am no different than the average Midwestern person living here. We have a very acidic diet, and I'm going to explain why. Between our socializing, the things we do socializing, we're a big meat and potato, vegetables are great. I'm not saying anything on potatoes because I eat potatoes. It's sometimes how we make potatoes that can harm us. But it's the foods that we eat on a daily basis that causes us to be way more acidic. The problem is it's not so much of what we're putting in our body, it's what we're not putting in our body, okay? So when I meet with someone and we go through what they're eating, and I'm not a nutritionist. I don't try to talk diets, nothing like that. I just try to explain foods and where they range on that alkalinity chart, acidic alkalinity chart. We don't get enough greens. We don't eat enough vegetables. We don't eat enough of the dark greens, our kale, our spinach, our charts, things like that. So, and I don't either. I know how good they are for you, but, I'm at my place usually by 5:30 in the morning. There's some nights I don't leave till 6. I have a wonderful husband that usually has already made supper for me by the time I get home in the wintertime when he's around. And it's usually a animal protein, it's a salad, and we like non-bread, So I'm not getting sometimes those dark greens in. So I'm a big believer in daily greens. I have my favorite, but there's numerous that are great as well. I honestly believe I stay closer to that 6.4 pH level because of adding the greens. It's all those alkaline greens that help me bring me back in from all the other stuff I do throughout the day. I like sweets. I don't give it up 100%, but I don't overdo it. Everything in moderation.
Right.
So I have learned that it's not so much about the foods we're putting in that are damaging us. It's the foods we're not putting in to balance us out. Blueberries are huge. Great for the liver. The liver loves blueberries. Tangerines, the liver loves tangerines, So I try to get those in for sure. But it's those darn greens I probably fail at the most. Yeah. So if I can drink my greens in the morning along with my liquid multivitamin, I can tell a difference. If I don't do it, I can tell a difference by afternoon that I have not fueled up on my vitamins. I haven't had my greens. I think it just makes you feel better overall.
What are signs? Because this is perfect that you're talking about it, because I was going to ask you, you know, what have you found with a lot of people from the Midwest? You know, what's off? You know, their pH acidic. I don't know a lot about it, but
oh my gosh, most people are like rock bottom acidic. So when you look at your litmus paper, 5.5 is as low as 5.0 to like 8. Okay. The average Northeast Nebraska person that comes in to check on their pH and get the or suggestions, I should say, to improve health, the average is 5.5 to 6.0. And according to Ream's biological theory of ionization, that's way too acidic, okay? Your digestive system is running too fast. So, you know, where you're supposed to eat something and then after you have eliminated it, you should be able to tell 12 hours later that's what you ate. Well, when you're that acidic, there's a great chance that you're going to be eliminating a lot earlier. So that speed of digestion, you're not breaking things down properly. You know, things that should be, you know, being digested in the small intestine are making it still whole, or, well, that's when you're too alkaline. It's just going through way too fast and whole foods getting to where it shouldn't be. It should already be broken down.
Do you find that more in women or men? Is it pretty even, I guess?
It's pretty even. I would say probably more men, but pretty close to being even. I think the husband and wife, for the most part, eat about the same. I know Scott and I do for the most part.
Yeah.
You know, I tend to probably bring in a few healthier things than he does from time to time. But, you know, man, I'm that fear of missing out type person when it comes to like I love our family getting together. We're a big foodies. We get excited about it and we don't hold back, you know, if it's something, you know, I'm from the South. We love, you know, homemade biscuits on a Sunday from time. You know, so I'm not going to not do that. I'm just not going to eat them every day.
A little extra butter doesn't hurt.
Lots of butter.
Lots of butter.
Lots of butter. So, you know, and again, it's choosing to not eat margarine. Eat butter. Not lots of butter, you know, but some butter's fine. I would have some people that would disagree with me on that, but, you know, when it comes, let's go back to the bioenergetic feedback. When you can be a part of a assessment that tells you, basically speaks back to you what your body's saying and what it's needing, you're able to make a lot of different lifestyle changes or making different choices on foods that you need to bring in, foods you need to leave out, supplements you need to bring in. B-complex vitamin is probably the one supplement I try very hard to get every single person that walks in that door to take, because we're not getting them. And there's so many of them that are so beneficial and nourishing and healing. You know, B1's great for the liver. That's what we're taught in natural health. B12, you know, we need B12 also. That also helps to boost energy. So I would say B complex is probably the number one for me overall, unless I see something major speaking out in the body.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay, so you're a naturopathic doctor. I know you're certified in other areas. I probably can't pronounce it. Okay. But what is the naturopathic doctor community within Nebraska, or really in the U.S., look like? Like, how many are you? Is it small? Tell us a little about that.
I would, 5-6 years ago, you probably had, when I was researching, and if you're listening to this podcast and you can prove me wrong, by all means, please contact me and let me know, because I want to know these things. You know, there may be like 2 or 3 people that are considered a naturopathic doctor in Omaha. There may be another 2, 3. And of course, this is just me just briefly researching at that point in time. Since then, I think I don't know if they're board certified naturopathic doctors. There's more people opening natural health practices. But I don't think they're naturopathic doctors. It was important for me to have that certification, you know, being board certified. But it's growing. I look at the school I graduated from, and the list of people they are graduating on a yearly basis in natural health as a naturopathic doctor or naturopath is growing tremendously. People are just realizing that, you know, And I'm not anti-medical. I'm not anti-prescriptions by any means. Everything has a place at a right time. And there's so much you can do on your own if you know how to do it with food. Food is medicine. Food, supplements, and the right type. You want to have nutrient-dense foods, and you want to have good supplements. I once had a friend/professional tell me that, oh, just go grab that off the shelf. It really doesn't matter. It matters. When I biofeedback someone or do the assessment on them, when I can get them to bring in the liquid vitamins I recommend and the powdered greens to mix with that, after a couple of months and I retest them, huge, big difference.
Yeah.
So it does make a difference on where your supplements are coming from and what you're taking when you're taking it. So yeah.
I think that's so important. I was really fortunate enough to grow up in a household where, my
mom's on top of it.
My mom is on top of it, and she probably goes into Patty's store once every 2 weeks.
We see Sherry from time to time, and that's wonderful.
Yes, I'm glad. But so with her focusing on that, I was fortunate enough to grow up around the natural health environment, and where correcting your foundation was something that we talked about.
Yes.
Will you talk to some of our listeners who might not be as educated in that area about natural health and the importance of correcting your foundation?
Okay. So I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is where I usually start with my time with a client. So when I'm meeting with a client, it usually takes us an hour and a half. It sometimes goes into 2 hours. Yesterday I spent 3 hours with one client. I love it though. And we start with foundations. You can bring all types of foods, supplements. Let's just talk with supplements first, and I'll touch foods, because that's a good thing to bring new and healthy foods in. But if your foundations are off, nothing you do is going to work. And this all brings in the whole mental, physical, and spiritual side. So the number one suggestion to improve someone's health I always touch base on is, what is your relationship like with God? If you do not have an intimate relationship and you don't wake up in the morning starting off with thank you, God, and just giving him whatever you can. I know we take it back, but starting there. If that relationship is off and that foundation is not there, nothing else is really going to work. So let's focus on that. We're so blessed in the Midwest, especially Northeast Nebraska, that I have not found one person yet that has walked into my facility that has not been faith-based, or relationship has not been good with God. Number two, how much water are you drinking? Okay. In natural health, in the school I went to, we were taught half your body weight in ounces of water to hydrate and to detox the body. Now, that can be different if a medical doctor has told someone due to their kidney output or what's going on with the kidneys. They may have to do it differently. It may be a different amount of water. So you definitely need to listen to your medical doctor if that's the case. What's the water intake like? Let's correct that if we need to. For, again, hydration and detoxification. You're going to sleep better. You're going to feel better. You're mentally going to be able to process things better. You may not be so anxious, moody, okay? After that, what's our sleeping habits like? Sleep is huge. Sleep can affect the liver. If we're not sleeping well, it can throw the energy in the liver off. If the liver is off, we tend to be more angry people. Anger is the number one emotion that affects the liver. So, what's our sleep patterns like? What can we do to help you sleep better? Why are you not sleeping well? And I have a few people probably that's going to listen to this and laugh really hard, because I'm not a great sleeper. But I know when I don't sleep well, I know what it is. I either ate too late, okay? We need a good 3 hours for our food to digest. I may have gone out for dinner, may have had that glass of wine, may have had 2 glasses of wine. You know what? That alcohol is going to keep me up. It may be the types of foods I ate, okay? And then I also sometimes will not sleep because I've got a lot on my mind, growing a business, reaching a different audience, educating, the things I want to do. I need to write down on a piece of paper what it is and what I need to do the next day. Put that aside, then I'm not worried about it. And it's usually, when people say they don't know why they're not sleeping well, I would beg to differ. Once we start talking, it's like, oh yeah, no.
It'll come out.
Oh yeah. So sleep. So God, water. Isn't that funny how often he talks about water in the Bible? So God, water, sleep, and rest. And he talks about rest. We bring in the food side. What they are eating, what they're not eating. Let's make some corrections there. Exercise, huge. there's all types of exercise that a person can bring in. I am not a gym person. I highly promote going to gyms and exercising. I like the forms of exercise that are easier on the joints, so that's why I became a yoga instructor. If you want to hold a position, a very hard balancing position for about 20 deep breaths, you will be sweating and your heart rate will go up. But I like to walk fast, but there's swimming, there's Pilates, there's all kind of high fitness, all kinds. So bring exercise in, okay? 3 to 5 times a week, 7 days a week if you can. After that, then we start looking at what are some of the areas in your life that are overwhelming to you. What are some of the things that we were talking about earlier? Pull the energy out of you. And it might be who are the people and what are you doing? Energy management. Energy management's huge. And I'm not going to pretend I am awesome at that. But I do know it's very important, and I do try hard every day. If we look at those things right there, if those things are off, even if one of those things are off, anything else you try to do to be preventative and restorative to your health, it's not going to work real well. So, yeah, foundations are huge.
I love hearing it. I think as entrepreneurs, and like you were mentioning, you have so much on your mind, and it's really easy to have a 14-hour day. Yeah. And, I need to stay up because I need to get this done, but the importance of recharging is so important in getting that sleep and correcting your foundation. How... because I'm sure there's a lot of people who might not see it the way you do. How do you go about having conversations with those people who might not see it or understand the root cause of a problem because they maybe weren't trained to think that way? How do you have conversations with those people?
Well, I try to be really careful how I start if the conversation is going to be had with someone that is not of my belief in health. I try real hard to start off right away with common ground, with life, food, and maybe I try to listen to them first. I try to get their perspective and why first. So that way it gives me a moment to get my information and stuff together. And I try to present it in a way that's not coming at them. In being honest, it was a challenge when I first started this path. It was a challenge for me and my husband at first because he didn't understand why I was going in this direction. I have a few good friends that are in the medical field that were scratching their head on why. I chose not to focus on their whys. And the negativity, and the lack of understanding they didn't have in my path. And I was patient. I feel like I was very patient with them and took some of the blows as far as negativity. But now, almost 6 years later, I'm amazed at the same ones who were why are you doing this? What the what? They are actually the ones that are now, most of them, on board. I love it when my husband calls me and says, hey, I was talking to so-and-so, a customer, and I really think he needs to come see you for this. That's, to me, one of the biggest compliments, just having my own husband, because at the very beginning, I'm not saying he wasn't supportive. There was just a lot of questions, and he didn't understand. Like, for example, the foot detoxification. We call it the ionic foot detox again, but it's whole body.
Best thing ever.
It is wonderful.
I've done it probably, 4 or 5 times. I feel so much better walking out.
So that is the one service that I've had more people say, well, my husband thinks, this is just nuts, that you're putting something in the water. My husband thought that as well at first. So I had him come in. I think I took him home, actually. I had him put his feet in one of the water basins with the array or the module. And our machine, and then I had a separate one. We did them at the same time. His water from his detox was thick, brown. You couldn't see his feet. It was a lot, but that's his first time. Your first time is going to be a lot. Over here at this basin, the ions, the negative ions that get put out into the water, recognize the Dead Sea salt. So it's going to change just a little bit. So the darkest that water got was about the consistency. If I took probably like a fourth of amount of tea
and
put it in about 3 gallons of water. So very, very light.
Yeah.
So that is all that one turned, and his was as brown to almost black and very, very, very thick and bubbly. So yeah. So once he saw that, and then he did say, oh yeah, I do kind of feel good. I don't feel like my back hurt. So people will notice that in their areas where they have aches and pains, that, people getting up after it, they'll be like, oh my gosh, I can get out of this chair without, it hurting.
Yeah.
So the proof is in the water.
I believe in it.
Yeah.
I seriously believe in it, because I walk out feeling so much better. And I remember when I went in for my first time, did you have a couple drinks last night? Or you asked me a couple questions, and based on what I was doing, changed the color of the water.
And my questions I asked you, I did not tell you, oh, this is what this means.
No, but you
Legally,
knew.
I can't say that. It gives us a great indication of what's going on. There's been 2 young ladies in their upper 20s, by looking at their water and me noticing a color right there in the module. It opens a conversation of, like, for example, I just ask them, I'm like, okay, this can be an indication. I always say indication of this. And it just so happened to be this color that I saw is connected possibly with some imbalances with hormones. Okay. And so we just started talking, and I was just explaining that, I'm like, I told her, I said, I cannot say that that's what this is, but we as practitioners have found that this could possibly. And she looked at me and she said, well, my husband and I have been trying to get pregnant for the last year. And I said, have you ever had a full panel done of your hormones and thyroid? And she said, no, not yet. She says, they want us to wait a year. And so I said, you're at that year. I said, I would definitely, speak to your medical doctor and express that you want full panels of everything, so you can see the overall full thyroid health, the overall full where your hormones are. Where are they imbalanced, or are they perfect? So then it leads you to maybe research something else. So it's amazing what you can identify and indicate in the water. But again, it's all about just all over whole body detox.
It's so amazing what those machines can do, and
there's a difference between a $200 machine and a $2,500 machine.
Oh my gosh! I remember when you were telling me how much one of those Ionic deals was when I was in, and I just wide-eyed. But and so lucky that the West Point community has that.
We have 6 machines there in West Point. I practice in Ord once a month, and so I keep 2 machines there, and we keep them going all the time. And if you would have told me that would be probably I'm not going to say it's the area that brings the most money in, and I'm not focused on that, but it is definitely the area that brings the people back to spend more money on things to improve their health. So
right. Okay, you're such a light, and I just enjoy talking to you so much. And the West Point community and the Ord community are so lucky to have you. But will you entrepreneurship and starting your own business isn't always sunshine and roses.
Nope.
Tell us about a really hard time where it was rough and it was challenging. But I know we talked about one in the past, and I'd love for our listeners to hear that.
Sure. I would say probably in 6 years, the toughest point has been in the last 2 years for a couple of reasons. It started with, when I started the Good Earth Company, my mom was at retirement age and she was ready for a new challenge. And so I talked her into moving up to West Point, from West Point, Mississippi to West Point, Nebraska, to help me. Because I knew, as busy as Scott and I were on our, the feed yard, ranching, livestock, commodity side, and I'm not trying to make it sound like that I did tons there, but I was his extra set of hands, that person that had,
just
the
like any
CDL
farm
that
life.
I could take
I get it.
Trailer of cattle somewhere. But so 2 years, I had her come up so she could be the face of the Good Earth Company. I wanted to be the worker bee. I wanted to be the energy behind it, the light, the educator. But I wanted her to be the person that people saw when they came in, because she was such a delightful woman, probably the most beautiful person inside and out you'll ever have met. But she came, she helped me start the business. So I had a very reliable, consistent employee that didn't complain.
Yeah.
And my ones now don't either. But my point is that I could wake up every morning, and I knew my mom was going to be there first to open the door. When I was with someone or teaching a class, that she was going to take care of things. She allowed me to leave by 5:30, so she could stay and clean and lock up. She not only cleaned at the Good Earth Company, she would go to my house and clean so I could be at the store or at my place to do stuff. So everything that I personally needed, because when I went into the business, I did this 100% on my own. I went in it with Patti Knobbe, taking out the loans. Patti Knobbe starting this. This was 100% all mine. I didn't want to bring the stress in on my husband because he had enough, and my family, which they have helped me all in some way, shape, or form. But anyway, she passed away 2 years ago in January, complications of COVID. And that sent me into a tailspin of, oh my gosh, I now have to be here Monday through Saturday, 5:30 in the morning till sometimes 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and I had to figure that out. But then, you know what, God heard my prayers and my cries, a lot of cries. Then, you know, in between that time, a wonderful young lady by the name of Megan Bede, I showed up to yoga class one day, and we were just kind of talking, and she goes, "You need help." She didn't ask, she just told me. She was like, "You need help." And I said, "Yeah, I do need help." And so she says, "I could offer you a day or two." How fortunate I was. She came to me already so knowledgeable in natural health. Already knew so much. When our ionic foot detoxifications came in, she had been already doing those for I think maybe 7 to 10 years.
Wow.
My mom was at that time, so she came a little bit before my mom passed away, but was already there about almost a year when this happened. But she stepped up and ran the place for me while I was gone. My mom passed away. But she was able to start the ionic foot detoxifications while I was gone with my mom. And so then she stepped in. I didn't advertise, wasn't looking. And so then she and I have really worked together and struggled together to grow. It's grown all on its own without us even having to try too hard, which is a wonderful thing. But just still, I mean, it's like bringing the things in, making it work. Consistency with the message and that person being there. Here recently, because we've grown more, I bought my building. I'm adding more rooms, more service rooms. We have more services. We need more employees. Yeah. And so without advertising, but I was worrying and stressing about it, which I shouldn't have, but I was praying about it. Another wonderful lady popped in, Paige Peterson from the Oakland area, and she at one time owned 7 any type of fitnesses. And Paige, please correct me if I'm wrong on that. I'm sure it was many more than that. But she just popped in one day, and actually she called me. She came in one day to talk and called me a couple of weeks later and said, "I'm retiring, and would you like to employ me for a day?" And I'm like, absolutely. So she's been a beautiful part of things. Yeah. Pam Rolfe came in here recently. She's the last one. But that being said, I'm still needing a full-time office manager, Monday through Friday, maybe Monday through Thursday, a Saturday from time to time. I'm going to let God bring that person. I'm not going to advertise. Well, I guess this is kind of somewhat advertisement, but I'll pray about it. He'll put the right person at the right time that has a great grasp on natural health. So, yeah. So this last 2 years has been the challenging. Right. Some days you've woken up saying, okay, I'm really going to have to hone my energy, put my boots on, and get at it after it today. Yeah. Because it's a lot.
Yeah. I love how the Good Earth Company has impacted so many people in your life as well. And it's truly your ministry. I like how you talk about that. If you could go into how would someone get involved in natural health or learn more about the Good Earth Company, because I know we have students in the program who have a niche for that. How can they go about learning more?
So we do have a website, and don't hop on it today because that is my job this weekend to get all of our services in. And I've been trying to do this for the past couple of months, another struggle. Once I get someone that's there, that's going to be their baby as well. I'm the talker, I'm the educator, I'm the work bee. I'm not the technically savvy person. But we do have a website. You can Google PattiKnobbe.com. That's more for my practice side, but the Good Earth Company, the number 7, because there's already a Good Earth Company out there. So I had to bring in something to.
I noticed that when doing research, right?
Yes. So I've chosen number 7 because of, a biblical number, a number that's of completion.
Yeah.
So the Good Earth Company spelled out the number 7.com. Right now we have a lot of our services and what the Good Earth Company is about. I don't have product on there. That's a lot of work. And maybe one day down the road we will, but when I'm assessing people, some of the products can be so specific from like professional grade companies. There's a lot of legalities there, so I choose to just not keep products on there. You can call us about products, but when you come and do one of your assessments or your time with me, we usually have most everything you need. If not, we order it for you. That being said, the Good Earth Company 7.com, Patti Knobbe, PattiKnobbe.com. It'll get you a good start, but after this weekend, hopefully, all services will be on there.
It'll come in time.
Oh, absolutely.
And it'll be beautiful.
Absolutely.
We're just going to have to get people in your doors for now.
Oh, I'd love that. Thank you.
Okay, so before we end the podcast, I want us to be able to support you. So how can the Nebraska community, how can the people in our circle support you and the Good Earth Company right now?
That is a great question, and I'm totally going to just kind of go with it, and again, God, the words will come.
That's right.
I think in the day and time we live in a very stressful time. We live in a very go, work till you drop kind of time, and I think people are becoming more aware of how important it is to mentally, let's say spiritually, mentally, and physically take care of yourself. Some people just don't know how. So I guess the way you could support the mission and the goal of the Good Earth Company is, and there's other people out there that do what I do, but try to help connect them either with us or with someone who can walk them through the journey of improving their life, living their best life, spiritually, mentally, and physically. So helping educate others, but also if they don't know how, you don't know how, you can direct them to us or any other natural health individuals that are up for the challenge.
Yeah. Well, I have enjoyed having you so much today, and every time I come in your shop, I feel like I'm a better person walking out. So
thank you. That is the goal and the mission as well.
Good. That makes me really happy. So,
are you one of those that walks in and says, "Oh, I love how it smells in here. What is that smell?"
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
There's so many smells in there.
I can stare at the shelves, and I every time I look at a new one, I'm like, okay, explain what this one is, so that way I know. Yeah. And brought one home during Christmas, and Josh looks at it and he goes, "What'd you get now?"
Oh, I know. We got lots of great smelling things in there. Essential oils to clean burning candles.
Yes. So. Yeah. One of my new ones that I got was the lavender spray for the pillow.
Oh, yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
We love spraying it on our pillows every night. So
awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you for
anyone listening or watching the video, please go check out the Good Earth Company, see what Patti Knobbe's doing, because she is truly changing the community, not only in West Point, but around Nebraska and beyond that. She's making people better every single day, and it's important to focus on that, especially as business owners and entrepreneurs. We got my mom a gift card to the Good Earth Company, so that way she could go anytime she wanted. It makes for a great Mother's Day, Christmas, Valentine's Day is coming up. You can get it for your spouse or your significant other. But go check out the Good Earth Company, and we'll see you, maybe have you on next time.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks, Patti.